She was standing in the freezing cold, holding her crying baby, when a black car slowed down, and the man inside made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The cold didn't feel real at first. It never did. It started as a sharp bite in the air, the kind that made people pull their coats tighter and walk faster, heads down, breath visible in short white bursts. The kind of cold you told yourself you could endure for a few minutes. Maya Carter had told herself that too. Just a few minutes, just until she figured something out. But minutes turned into something longer, something heavier, something that settled into her bones and refused to leave. The door slammed behind her with a finality that echoed down the empty hallway. Not loud, not dramatic, just finished. She stood there for a second, staring at it, at the peeling paint, at the number slightly crooked on the wood, at the place she had called home, even when it barely deserved the word. "Maya, don't do this," she had said. Her voice had been steady then, careful, controlled, the way you speak when you know losing control will cost you more than you can afford. But the man on the other side of the door, Mr. Halverson, hadn't cared. Rent was late, 3 weeks late, and excuses didn't pay bills. "I gave you time," he had said, not unkindly, which somehow made it worse. "I can't give you more." She had nodded. Because what else was there to do? Begging didn't work on people who had already decided. Explaining didn't matter when the outcome was already set. So she had packed what she could. One bag, a small suitcase, a diaper bag slung over her shoulder, and Eli. Always Eli. Now she stood outside, the night air hitting her like something physical, something that pushed against her skin and demanded more than she had left to give. Snow fell in soft, relentless flakes, quiet, almost beautiful, if you weren't standing in it with nowhere to go. Eli cried against her chest, a thin, strained sound, too sharp, too tired. Maya shifted him slightly, pulling the worn blanket tighter around his small body, tucking it under his chin, pressing him closer to her warmth. "It's okay," she whispered. The words came automatically, soft, soothing, even though she didn't believe them, even though her own hands were already starting to shake. She stepped down from the porch. The snow crunched beneath her boots, the sound too loud in the silence of the street. The building behind her went dark, one window at a time. Lives continuing, doors closing, warmth staying inside. And her, left out of it. She moved toward the sidewalk slowly, adjusting the strap of the bag digging into her shoulder, her breath uneven now, not from panic, she wouldn't allow panic, but from the cold that was starting to creep deeper, sharper. Her phone was in her pocket. She had already checked it, twice, 3 times, no new messages, no missed calls, no miracle waiting on the other side of the screen. She had called earlier, before this, before the door closed. A friend who couldn't help, a number that didn't pick up, a voicemail she didn't leave because she didn't know what she would say. "Hi, it's me. I have nowhere to go. My baby is cold. Please." Some words were too heavy to say out loud, even when they were true. Eli's crying softened for a second, then returned, weaker this time. Maya's chest tightened, not panic, not yet, but something close. She walked. No destination, just movement, because standing still felt worse, felt like giving in. The street stretched ahead of her, empty, quiet, the kind of quiet that made everything feel smaller, more exposed. She passed houses with lights glowing behind curtains, televisions flickering, shadows moving inside, lives happening, normal, untouched. She didn't knock. She thought about it. For a second, for half a breath, but she kept walking. Because rejection was colder than the air, and she didn't have anything left to protect herself from that. Eli shifted against her, his small face pressed into her coat, his cries fading into soft, uneven whimpers. Maya stopped, just for a second, her heart stuttering in her chest. "No, no, no." Her voice broke slightly. She adjusted the blanket again, her fingers clumsy now, stiff from the cold, trying to make sure he was covered, warm, safe. "I've got you," she whispered quickly. "I've got you." But the words felt thinner now, less certain. The cold wasn't just around them anymore. It was inside, in her hands, in her lungs. In the space where fear was starting to take shape, whether she wanted it to or not, she looked up and down the street. Nothing. No cars, no movement, no help. Just snow. And silence. And the quiet, creeping realization that she was running out of time. Maya pressed her forehead gently against Eli's head, closing her eyes for just a second. Not to rest, to think, to force her mind to keep moving. Because stopping meant something she couldn't allow, not with him in her arms. Okay, she whispered, the word barely there. But it was something, a decision, a promise. She adjusted her grip, tightened her hold on him, and stepped forward again into the cold night. Not because she knew where she was going, but because she refused to stop trying. Not yet, not while he still needed her. The first door she knocked on, she almost didn't. Maya stood on the small concrete step, snow gathering on her shoulders, Eli tucked tightly against her chest, her hand hovering in the air like it didn't quite belong to her. The light inside was on. She could see it through the thin curtain, a warm, soft glow. Movement, too, a shadow passing by. Someone was home, her fingers curled slightly, then uncurled, because this part, was harder than the cold. Knocking meant asking, and asking meant risking the kind of no that didn't just deny you help. It reminded you that you were alone. Eli let out a small, strained cry against her coat. That decided it. Maya lifted her hand and knocked. Once, soft. Too soft. She swallowed and knocked again, louder this time. The sound echoed more than she expected in the quiet street. She waited. Her breath held, her body still. Inside, the shadow moved again, closer this time. Hope flickered, small, dangerous. The doorknob turned, just slightly, then stopped. The light shifted, as if someone had leaned closer to the door. Listening. Maya opened her mouth. Please. The word barely made it out. The lock clicked, not open, closed, more secure. The shadow stepped back. And then, nothing. No voice, no apology, no explanation, just silence. Maya stood there for a second longer than she should have, as if waiting might change something, as if the door might open after all. But it didn't. It never did. She stepped back slowly, her boots crunching against the snow again. Eli stirred in her arms, his small body too still between cries. Her chest tightened. Okay, she whispered, to him, to herself, to the night that didn't seem to care either way. Okay. The second house was farther down the street, a porch light flickering slightly above the door. The kind of place that looked less certain, less guarded. Maya didn't hesitate this time. She knocked immediately, twice, firm, desperate in a way she didn't try to hide anymore. The door opened faster this time. A woman stood there, mid-40s maybe, tired eyes, wrapped in a robe. She looked at Maya, at Eli, at the snow gathering around them, and for a moment, something softened in her expression. Hope flared again, stronger this time. I'm sorry, Maya said quickly, her words rushing now, tripping over each other. I need somewhere warm for a little while. My baby, he's cold and The woman's face changed. Not cruel, not angry, just closed. I can't, she said. The words came fast, too fast, like she had said them before, like she needed to say them quickly before she changed her mind. I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't let strangers in. It's not safe. Maya nodded immediately, too quickly. I understand, she said, even though she didn't, even though part of her wanted to say please just 5 minutes, just until he stops crying, just until I figure something out. But she didn't, because she saw it, the line in the woman's eyes, the fear, the boundary, and pushing against it wouldn't open the door. It would only make it close faster. I understand, she repeated. The woman hesitated, just for a second. Then she stepped back. The door closing gently this time, not slammed, not harsh, but still final. Maya stood there, again. The warmth disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Eli's cry came back, weaker now, more tired than loud. Maya pressed him closer, her fingers brushing his cheek. Cold, too cold, her stomach twisted. No, no. She shifted him again, trying to warm him, trying to give him something her body was struggling to hold on to itself. She stepped off the porch, kept walking, because stopping wasn't an option, not yet. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Maya froze. Hope surged so fast it almost hurt. She fumbled for it, her fingers stiff, clumsy. A message. Finally. She opened it quickly, read, and felt the hope drain just as fast. Unknown number. Payment overdue. Final notice before legal action. Maya stared at the screen. For a second, then locked it, because there was nothing else to do with that. She scrolled through her contacts, names that felt smaller now, further away. She hit one, pressed the phone to her ear. It rang, once, twice, 3 times, voicemail. She hung up before the tone, tried another. This time it picked up. Maya, relief flickered. Hi, she said quickly, her voice tighter now, harder to hold steady. I'm sorry, I know it's late, something happened and I was wondering if maybe I could... A pause, long enough. Too long. Maya, I can't tonight. The words were soft, regretful, but firm. I've got the kids and my mom's here, and there's just no space. I'm really sorry. Maya nodded, even though the other person couldn't see her. It's okay, she said, because that's what you say. It's fine. It wasn't. But saying it made it easier for them, and she had learned a long time ago that people preferred easy. I hope things work out, the voice added gently. Maya swallowed. Yeah, she said, me too. The line clicked. Silence again. She lowered the phone slowly, her hands shaking now, not just from the cold, from something deeper, something heavier. Eli whimpered softly against her. Maya closed her eyes for a second, just one, then opened them again. Because she didn't get to break, not here, not now. She looked down the street, at the rows of houses, the closed doors, the warm lights behind windows that would never open for her, and she understood something clearly. Not with anger, not with bitterness, just with a quiet, sinking certainty. No one was coming. No one was going to open the door. No one was going to fix this for her. It was just her and him in the cold with whatever strength she had left. Maya pulled Eli closer, adjusted the blanket again, and stepped forward, into a night that had already said no, determined to keep moving anyway. The cold stopped feeling like air. It became something else, something heavier, something that pressed in from all sides and didn't let go. Maya could feel it in her fingers first. The slow, creeping numbness that made it harder to adjust the blanket around Eli, harder to feel the edges of the fabric, harder to trust that she was even holding it tight enough. She flexed her hands against his back, once, twice, trying to bring life back into them, trying to make sure she still had control. Eli's cries had changed. That was what scared her most. Not that he was crying, but that he wasn't crying the same way anymore. The sharp, desperate wails from earlier had softened into something weaker, broken, interrupted by long, quiet pauses that stretched just a little too far. Maya felt each one of those pauses like a drop. Slow, heavy, terrifying. No, 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 she whispered under her breath, pulling him closer, tucking his head beneath her chin, trying to trap as much warmth as she could between them. I've got you. I've got you, baby. Stay with me, okay? Just stay with me. Her voice trembled. She forced it steady. Because he could feel that. Babies always could, and they felt everything. So she kept talking, soft, gentle, even when her heart was starting to beat too fast, even when her thoughts were beginning to slip out of order. You're okay. You're okay, she murmured, rocking slightly as she walked, the movement automatic now, ingrained from long nights and small comforts. The street had changed. Or maybe she had. It felt longer now, quieter, more empty. The houses thinned, the lights grew farther apart, and the cold sharpened. The wind picked up, cutting through her coat in a way that made her gasp, her body instinctively curling around Eli, shielding him as much as she could. Her breath came out in uneven bursts, visible, fragile, like it could disappear at any second. She needed somewhere, anywhere. Her mind scrambled through options that didn't exist. A store, a bus stop, a place with heat, a place with light, something. But everything around her was closed, dark, distant, too far. Eli whimpered again, softer now, his small body shifting weakly against her. Maya stopped walking. Her heart stuttered. No. She adjusted him again, her hands more frantic now, pulling the blanket tighter, rubbing his back, trying to generate warmth that her own body was struggling to hold on to. "Hey! Hey! Stay with me," she said quickly, her voice breaking just slightly before she caught it. "Stay with me, Eli. I'm right here. I'm right here." She pressed her cheek against his head. Cold, too cold. Her stomach dropped, a sharp, sudden fear slicing through the exhaustion. Not slow this time, not creeping. Immediate, loud. She looked around. Nothing. Still nothing. The silence pressed in harder now, the kind that made everything feel too still, too far away. Maya took a step forward, then another. Faster now, her movements less controlled, less careful, her breath uneven, her thoughts slipping. Not panic, and not yet, but close. Too close. Okay. We're fine, she whispered, the words coming faster now, more for her than for him. We just need just a little more, okay? Just a little more. She didn't know what she was reaching for, but she couldn't stop moving. Stopping meant thinking. Thinking meant realizing how bad this had gotten, and she couldn't afford that, not while he was still in her arms. Eli's crying faded again. A soft sound, barely there. Maya's chest tightened so sharply it stole her breath for a second. No. This time the word came out louder, rougher. She shook her head slightly as if that alone could fix it. "Hey, no, you don't get to do that," she said, her voice trembling now despite her efforts. "You don't get to be quiet on me, okay? Not tonight." She rubbed his back again, faster, more urgently, trying to coax sound out of him, trying to feel him move. "Come on, Eli. Come on, baby, cry for me. I need you to cry." Her vision blurred for a second, not from tears, from the cold, from the strain, from the weight of everything pressing in at once. She blinked hard, focused, forced herself to breathe, in, out. "Okay," she said again, quieter now. "Okay, we're okay." But the words felt thinner, like they were breaking apart as soon as she said them. Her body ached. Her arms burned from holding him so tightly, her fingers barely responding anymore. And still, she didn't loosen her grip. Couldn't, wouldn't, because he was all that mattered, the rest of it. The cold, the fear, the silence, the rejection, none of it meant anything if she could just keep him safe. Just a little longer, just long enough for something to change. Her steps slowed, not by choice, by exhaustion, by the way her body was starting to push back, her legs heavy, her breath shallow, but she kept moving, because stopping wasn't an option, not while he still needed her. Maya lifted her head slightly, her eyes scanning the street ahead, desperate now, searching for anything. A light? A sign, a reason to believe they weren't completely alone in this. And for a moment, just a moment, there was nothing. Just snow and darkness and the quiet, terrifying edge of a breaking point she was doing everything in her power not to reach. She pulled Eli closer, as close as physically possible, her voice barely more than a breath now. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Even as everything around her threatened to take that choice away. The street was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that felt abandoned, forgotten, the kind that made everything look smaller than it should be. Maya barely noticed it anymore. Her world had narrowed to one thing, the weight in her arms, the uneven rise and fall of Eli's small chest pressed against her. The fragile, terrifying rhythm she was listening to more closely than anything else. Everything else, the snow, the street, the passing time, blurred at the edges. She walked because she had to, not because she knew where she was going, not because there was somewhere waiting, just because stopping felt like giving up. And that was something she refused to do, not while he was still here, not while he still needed her. Her breath came out in short, strained bursts now, her body fighting something it couldn't win against for much longer. Her fingers barely responding as she adjusted the blanket again, her movements slower, less precise. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice almost gone. The words weren't steady anymore. They weren't comforting. They were pleading. And that was the part she hated most. Because she wasn't supposed to sound like that. Not to him. never to him. Eli made a small sound, not a cry, not even a whimper, just something. Too quiet. Maya's heart dropped so sharply it felt like it hit something solid inside her chest. No. She stopped walking, just for a second, her body freezing in place, her arms tightening around him instinctively as if holding him closer could force warmth back into him. Hey? Hey, no, you don't get quiet on me, she said, her voice breaking through the cold air, rough now, desperate in a way she couldn't hide anymore. Come on, Eli, come on, baby. Her vision blurred, the edges of the world softening in a way that didn't feel right. She blinked hard, tried to focus, tried to think, but her thoughts weren't lining up anymore. They slipped, fragmented, scattered. She needed help. The realization hit her fully this time. Not something she could push aside, not something she could delay. She needed help now, and there was no one. No doors, no lights, no voices, just the empty street stretching out in front of her like it didn't care whether she made it to the end of it or not. And then, a sound, low, distant, different. Maya lifted her head slowly, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. Headlights cut through the snowfall, bright, sharp, too clean against the muted gray of everything else. A car approaching. For a second, hope flared, quick, painful, almost blinding. Her heart jumped, her breath catching as she shifted her weight slightly, instinctively stepping closer to the edge of the road. But just as quickly, something else followed, reality. Cars didn't stop, not on streets like this, not for people like her, not for a woman standing in the snow with a crying baby and nowhere to go. They passed. They always passed. She had seen it before, felt it, the quick glance, the hesitation, then the decision to keep moving. Because stopping meant involvement, and involvement came with cost. People avoided cost, even when it meant walking past something they knew wasn't right. Maya didn't raise her hand, didn't wave, didn't step further into the street, because she already knew it would pass. It always did. The car slowed, just slightly, so slight most people wouldn't have noticed. But Maya did. Her breath caught again. Not hope this time. Something closer to confusion. The vehicle was wrong for this street. Too clean, too expensive. A sleek black car that didn't belong in a place like this. The kind of car that moved through cities without stopping. The kind of car that didn't see people like her. Inside, behind tinted glass, Dante Russo sat in the back seat. Still, silent. Watching. He had been on his way somewhere else, something routine, something that required his attention, a meeting, a decision, another piece of a world that ran on control and precision and outcomes that had nothing to do with moments like this. He didn't look out windows often, didn't need to. His world came to him. But something had pulled his attention to the street. A shift, a movement that didn't fit. And once he saw it, he didn't look away. A woman, standing in the snow, not moving, not waving, not trying to get attention, just standing there, holding something, no, someone, small, wrapped tightly against her chest. Dante's gaze sharpened. Most people would have seen desperation. He saw something else, control. The way she held herself, even now, even like this. Her shoulders squared just enough, her stance steady despite the cold. Her head slightly lowered, not in defeat, but in focus. Everything about her said one thing clearly. She wasn't giving up, not yet. The baby shifted in her arms. Dante noticed that too, the way she reacted immediately, tightening her hold, adjusting without thinking, protecting, instinctive, unquestionable. The car continued forward, slow, too slow. Dante didn't speak, didn't move, but his eyes didn't leave her. And that was what mattered, because Dante Russo did not notice things without reason. He did not fixate without purpose, and he did not stop, unless something made him. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror, just once, a question without words, because he had seen it too, the woman, the child, the way his boss hadn't looked away. The car moved past her by a few feet, a few seconds, enough to continue. Enough to ignore, enough to leave. Maya watched it go. Of course it would. Her shoulders dropped just slightly, the smallest fraction, not visible to anyone else, but enough enough to feel like something inside her had finally reached its limit. She shifted Eli again, her hands slower now, her body heavier, and she turned, ready to keep walking. Because that's what you do when nothing stops, when no one sees you, when the world keeps moving without you. Behind her. The car slowed again, then stopped. The car didn't just slow this time, it stopped. Not the kind of hesitation people mistake for kindness, not the slow roll of someone deciding whether they should get involved. It was deliberate, final. The engine idled softly behind her, a low, controlled hum that felt out of place in the empty street. Maya didn't turn around immediately. She couldn't, because hope was dangerous. Hope made you pause, and pausing tonight felt like something she couldn't afford. But then, a door opened. The sound cut through the cold air with a sharp, unmistakable precision. Heavy, expensive, intentional. Maya closed her eyes for half a second, just long enough to steady herself, just long enough to push down the part of her that wanted to collapse into relief before she understood what this was. Then she turned, slowly, carefully. The man stepping out of the car didn't rush. He didn't look around. He didn't hesitate. He moved like the world adjusted to him, not the other way around. Tall, broad shoulders beneath a dark coat that looked untouched by the weather, dark hair, slightly windswept, but controlled in a way that felt deliberate. And his face, calm, unreadable, not cold, not angry, just certain. Maya's breath caught in her throat, not because she recognized him, but because something about him made her instinctively understand that this wasn't a man who did things halfway. The driver stayed inside, the car idling, waiting, as if this moment was not unexpected, as if this stop had already been decided before it happened. The man stepped closer, snow crunching beneath polished shoes that did not belong on streets like this. His gaze went to her, not past her, not around her, directly to her, and then to the baby in her arms. It was quick, subtle, but Maya saw it, the shift, small, controlled, but there. "Is he breathing?" he asked, and his voice was low, even, not rushed, not panicked, but it carried something heavier than urgency, something that made it clear he was not asking to fill silence. He was asking because the answer mattered. Maya's throat tightened. "Yes," she said quickly, too quickly, as if saying it fast enough would make it more true. He's fine. He's just cold. I just need to—" Her voice faltered. The words didn't line up, because even she didn't know what came next. The man watched her for a moment longer, not interrupting, not correcting, just watching, like he was listening to everything she wasn't saying. "You've been outside too long," he said, not a question, a fact. Maya swallowed, her arms tightened slightly around Eli. "I'm okay." The automatic response, the practiced one, the one she had used her entire life. "I'm okay," even when she wasn't. Especially when she wasn't. The man's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "You're not," he said quietly, and for a second, just a second, Maya felt something crack. Because he didn't say it like an accusation or a judgment. He said it like someone stating something undeniable, like gravity, like cold, like truth. She shook her head quickly. "I just need to get somewhere warm," she said, her voice steadier now, forcing itself back into control. "I'll figure it out." She took a small step back, instinct, distance, because men who stepped out of cars like that, men who looked like that, didn't do things for free. There was always something behind it, something unspoken, something that came later. "I'm not asking for anything," she added quickly, before he could say it, before he could offer, before she could be in a position where she owed someone she didn't understand. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her, not offended, not surprised, just aware. "I didn't say you were," he replied. The wind picked up slightly, a sharp gust that cut through her coat and made Eli stir weakly against her. Maya's grip tightened again, her focus snapping back instantly. The man saw that too. Of course he did. He seemed to see everything. "What's his name?" he asked. "Eli," she answered, softer this time, without thinking, because somehow that question didn't feel dangerous. "Eli," he repeated, as if testing the weight of it. Then his gaze returned to her. And you? Maya. There was a pause, a brief, quiet space where the snow fell around them and the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, my name is Dante, he said, not offering more, not explaining, just enough. And somehow, it felt like more than it should have. Dante looked at her for one more second. Then, without breaking eye contact, he reached into his coat. Maya tensed immediately, her body reacting before her mind could catch up, but his movement was slow, controlled. He pulled out his phone, turned slightly, spoke a few quiet words the driver couldn't hear, then lowered it again. You're getting in the car, he said, not forceful, not aggressive, but absolute. Maya's heart skipped. No, I can't. Yes, he said, still calm, still quiet. But this time, there was something underneath it, something unmovable. He needs warmth, Dante continued, nodding slightly toward Eli. And you're running out of time. The words hit harder than anything else he had said, because they were true, and she knew it. Maya hesitated, her eyes flicking to the car, then back to him. Every instinct she had built over years screamed at her to be careful, to not trust easily, to not step into something she didn't understand. But Eli shifted again, a small, weak movement, and that decided it. Maya exhaled slowly, the sound shaky despite her effort to control it. Okay, she whispered. Dante stepped aside immediately, creating space, not touching her, not rushing her, just allowing the choice to be hers. Maya walked toward the car, each step heavy, each second stretching. She opened the door. Warm air rushed out instantly, soft, immediate, almost overwhelming after the cold. She stepped inside, holding Eli closer, feeling the heat wrap around them like something unreal, like something she had almost lost the chance to reach. Dante closed the door behind her, then walked around to the other side. And as he slid into the seat across from her, the car pulled away, leaving the empty street behind, like it had never mattered at all. The warmth didn't feel real at first. It pressed against Maya's skin too quickly, too suddenly, like something her body didn't quite trust after being wrapped in cold for so long. Her fingers were stiff around Eli, her arms locked in place as if letting go, even a little, might undo whatever fragile safety this was. She didn't relax. She couldn't. The car moved smoothly through the city, tires cutting quietly over wet pavement, the world outside blurred by snow and streetlights. Inside, everything was controlled, clean, quiet, expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. Maya sat rigid in the seat, Eli pressed tightly against her chest, her cheek resting lightly against his head as if she could measure his breathing by proximity alone. He was warmer already. She could feel it, that small shift in temperature, that slight softening in his body. But it wasn't enough to calm the panic, because now she was inside a stranger's car, inside a situation she didn't understand. And every instinct she had ever learned, every quiet, hard-earned survival rule was screaming at her. Don't trust this. Don't get comfortable. Don't forget what men like this are capable of. Her eyes lifted, carefully. Dante sat across from her, his posture relaxed, one arm resting along the seat, his gaze not fixed on her, but not entirely away either. He wasn't staring, he wasn't watching her like prey, but he was aware of her, of the baby, of everything, that somehow made it worse. Men who looked too closely were dangerous, but men who didn't need to look, men who just knew, those were the ones you had to be most careful with. Maya shifted slightly, adjusting Eli in her arms. A protective reflex, a reminder to herself that she wasn't alone in this, that every decision she made right now wasn't just about her. Where are we going? She asked. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Dante didn't answer immediately. He glanced out the window, then back at her. Somewhere warm, he said. Simple. Too simple. Maya's grip tightened. That's not an answer. A small pause, then, no, he agreed calmly. It's not. Silence stretched between them, heavy, measured. Maya swallowed. I don't, she started, then stopped. Because how did you say this? How did you tell someone like him? A man who stepped out of a car like that, a man who spoke like that you didn't trust him? Her fingers curled slightly into Eli's blanket. I don't know you, she said finally. There it was, the truth. Dante didn't react, not offended, not surprised, just accepting. No, he said again, you don't. The car slowed slightly as it turned onto a quieter street. Maya's eyes flicked to the window, then back to him. Her heart picked up just a little. You could be taking me anywhere, she added, her voice quieter now, but sharper, more honest. Dante watched her for a moment, then leaned forward slightly, resting his forearms on his knees, not invading her space, but not distant either. If I wanted to take you somewhere you didn't want to go, he said, his voice low and even, you wouldn't have been given a choice. The words landed softly, but they hit like something solid. Maya went still, because there was no threat in his tone, no aggression, just truth. And somehow, that made it more terrifying. Her breath caught slightly, her instincts flared again. But then, Eli shifted in her arms, a small, weak sound escaping him, and just like that, everything snapped back into place. Her fear, her doubt, her survival, all of it rearranged around one thing, him, her son. Maya looked down at Eli, brushing her fingers gently over his cheek. Still too cold, still too quiet. Her throat tightened. Why are you doing this? She asked again, softer now, less defensive, more desperate. Dante's gaze followed hers, down to the baby, then back to her. Because you need help, he said. Maya shook her head slightly. That's not enough. For men like him, there was always a reason, a transaction, a balance. Nothing was ever just given. Dante studied her again, longer this time, as if deciding how much to say. You didn't ask, he said finally. Maya frowned slightly. What? You didn't ask for help, he clarified. Most people do, even when they pretend they don't. His eyes held hers now, steady, unflinching. You were prepared to stand in the cold until there was nothing left to give. Maya felt something twist in her chest. Because he wasn't wrong. She had been. She had been ready to endure it, to push through it. Because that's what she had always done. Survive first, feel later. Or not at all. I didn't have a choice, she said quietly. Dante's expression didn't change. You always have a choice, he replied. A pause, then softer. You just don't always have good ones. That hit something deeper. Maya looked away, out the window, the city passing by in streaks of light and shadow, her reflection faint in the glass, tired, worn, holding on by something that felt thinner than it should. Her arms tightened again around Eli, and for the first time since getting into the car, her fear shifted. It didn't disappear, it didn't soften, but it changed shape, because whatever Dante was, whatever world he came from, whatever power sat behind that calm, controlled voice, he had stopped. He had stepped out into the cold. He had looked at her, and he had seen. Maya closed her eyes briefly. Just a second, just enough to let the truth settle in her chest. Then she opened them again, and this time, she didn't pull away from his gaze. She held it, still cautious, still guarded, but no longer pretending she had another option. Okay, she said quietly. Not trust, not yet. But something close enough to it to keep going. And for now, that was enough. The heat kept rising in the car, slow, steady, until the cold that had wrapped itself around Maya's bones began to loosen its grip, one layer at a time. Her fingers didn't ache as sharply anymore. Her shoulders dropped just slightly. Even her breathing changed, less shallow, less frantic. But the warmth did something else too. It made it harder to hide. Because cold keeps things locked down. It narrows your world to survival, to the next second, the next breath. But warmth. Warmth gave space. And in that space, the things she had been holding back started to press forward. Maya adjusted Eli again, tucking the edge of the blanket more securely around him. His face was softer now, less tense. The tiny crease between his brows had eased, and his breathing, still quiet, was steadier. She focused on that. On him. Because it was easier than focusing on the man sitting across from her. Dante hadn't asked anything else. Not yet. He had given her silence. Not empty silence. Not the kind that felt like pressure, but the kind that waited, and somehow, that made it harder. Maya swallowed, her throat dry despite the warmth. "You said," she started, her voice quieter now, less guarded. "You said I didn't ask for help." Dante's gaze lifted slightly, still calm, still attentive. "I didn't," she continued. A small pause. "I don't." The words felt strange in her mouth, like something she wasn't used to admitting out loud. Dante didn't interrupt. He didn't fill the space. He just let her speak. Maya let out a slow breath. "I used to," she said. Her fingers brushed lightly over Eli's back, a grounding motion. "I used to think if things got bad enough, someone would step in, that if I just held on long enough, did everything right, someone would notice." A faint, humorless exhale. "They don't." The car moved through another turn, the city outside growing quieter, darker. Maya stared at her hands for a moment, then back at Eli. Then, finally, back at Dante. "My landlord didn't throw me out because I missed one payment," she said. Her voice was steadier now, not because it didn't hurt, but because she had learned how to say painful things without letting them break her open. It was 3 months. She saw the flicker in his eyes, not judgment, not surprise, just calculation, understanding. "I tried," she added quickly, the words coming faster now. "I picked up extra shifts. I worked doubles. I skipped meals. She stopped herself, pressing her lips together, because it sounded like excuses, and she hated that. "I couldn't keep up," she said instead, simpler, truer. Dante leaned back slightly, his expression unchanged. "Debt?" he asked. Maya nodded once. "Medical," she said. Her hand moved unconsciously to Eli's head again. He was early. There were complications. Insurance didn't cover everything. And then I had to take time off, and she stopped. Because she didn't need to explain the rest. It was obvious. Money runs out, bills don't. "I fell behind," she finished. The words sat heavy in the air. Dante didn't look away. "Why didn't you ask for help?" he asked. Not accusing, not pushing, just asking. Maya let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "From who?" she asked. A beat. "My parents are gone. I don't have siblings. The friends I had." She trailed off, because even that felt like too much to explain. "They have their own lives," she said simply. "And the rest?" Her jaw tightened slightly. "The rest comes with strings." That word lingered. Strings. Dante's gaze sharpened slightly. "Your husband?" he asked. Maya went still, not dramatically, not visibly, but something inside her locked into place. She hadn't mentioned him, not yet, and somehow, Dante had still found the edge of it. "There is no husband," she said after a moment, careful, measured. "He left before Eli was born." Dante watched her, waited. Maya felt the weight of that silence again. Different this time. He wasn't asking with his voice, but he was asking, and she knew it. Her fingers tightened slightly in the blanket. "He didn't just leave," she said quietly. There it was. The part she didn't want to say, the part she always avoided, because saying it made it real. "He took what was left." Dante's expression didn't change, but something in the air did, subtle, sharp. "He had debts," Maya continued, her voice flattening slightly, like she was stepping outside of it just enough to get through it. "And I didn't know how bad it was until people started showing up, asking questions, making suggestions." She looked down at Eli again, protective, instinctive. "I paid what I could, sold what I had, moved apartments twice." A small pause, then quieter. "But it follows you." The truth of that sat heavy between them. Because some things didn't stay in the past. They waited, they circled, they came back. "And tonight?" Dante asked. Maya's throat tightened again. "Tonight," she said slowly. He decided I wasn't worth the wait anymore. She didn't elaborate. She didn't have to. The door, the cold, the lock behind her. That was explanation enough. Silence filled the car again, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything she had just said, of everything she hadn't. Maya leaned her head back slightly against the seat, exhaustion pressing in now that the adrenaline had nowhere to go. I didn't want to tell you that, she admitted softly. Her eyes closed for a brief second, then opened again. But you asked. Dante watched her, long, steady, not looking at her like she was broken, not looking at her like she was weak, but like he was placing every piece of her story somewhere precise, somewhere that mattered. You survived it, he said. Simple, certain. Maya let out a quiet breath. Barely. Dante shook his head once. No, he said, his voice low, final. You're still standing. Maya looked at him, really looked this time. And for the first time since stepping into that car, the fear didn't disappear. But it shifted again. Because whatever this man was, whatever world he came from, he didn't see her as something that had already been broken. He saw her as something that had made it through, and for a moment, just a moment. Maya didn't know what to do with that. The car didn't feel as quiet anymore. Not because anything had changed on the surface. The engine still hummed low and steady. The city still slipped past the windows in muted streaks of light and shadow. Eli still breathed softly against Maya's chest, warmer now, safer. But something underneath it, something unseen, had shifted. Dante hadn't spoken right away after she finished. He hadn't rushed to respond, hadn't filled the space with reassurance or empty promises. He had simply absorbed it. Every word, every detail, every piece of a story Maya hadn't wanted to tell. And now that he had it, the air felt different. Maya noticed it before she understood it. The way his posture changed, subtle, almost imperceptible. His shoulders settling back slightly, his hands still, too still. The kind of stillness that wasn't relaxed, but controlled, deliberate. Names, he said. The word cut through the quiet. Not loud, not harsh, but precise. Maya blinked. What? Dante's gaze lifted to hers, steady, unmoving. The landlord, he said, the man who put you out. A pause, and the one who left you with his debts. Maya's chest tightened, instinct flaring again. That's not, she started quickly, shaking her head. You don't need to. I didn't say I needed to, Dante interrupted, still calm, still quiet. But this time, there was something else beneath it, something colder. I said I want to know. Maya swallowed. Her arms tightened around Eli again, protective, automatic. You don't understand, she said, her voice low, urgent now. This isn't something you just get involved in. Dante didn't react, didn't argue. He just watched her. And somehow, that made it harder. People like that don't just go away, she continued. They don't forget. They don't forgive. If you step in. If I step in, Dante said softly. What? Maya hesitated, because the answer felt too big to say out loud. They make it worse, she finished. A beat of silence, and then... No, Dante said. Just that. No explanation, no hesitation, just no. Maya frowned slightly, confusion cutting through her fear. You don't know that, she said. Dante leaned back slightly in his seat, his gaze shifting, not away from her, but deeper somehow, as if he were looking through the situation instead of at it. I do, he replied. The certainty in his voice wasn't loud, but it was absolute. Maya felt it settle into her chest like something heavy, unmovable. You said it yourself, Dante continued. They follow, they wait, they come back. His head tilted slightly. And tonight, they escalated. Maya's throat tightened. Because that word, escalated, made it sound like something structured, something deliberate, not just bad luck, not just circumstance, something chosen. They left a woman and a child in the cold, Dante said, still calm, still even. But now, there was something else in his voice, something sharp, something final. That's not pressure, he added. That's a decision. Maya's breath caught. She hadn't thought about it like that, hadn't allowed herself to, because thinking about it that way made it harder to survive it. And decisions, Dante continued quietly, have consequences. The word lingered, heavy. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Dante, she said slowly, carefully, as if choosing each word mattered. You don't know these people. A small pause. They're not small problems. Dante's gaze returned to her fully. And this time, there was no softness in it, no warmth, just something precise, controlled, dangerous in a way that didn't need to be shown. They made a mistake, he said. Maya shook her head slightly. No, they didn't. They do this all the time. To people like me. They made a mistake, Dante repeated, not louder, but firmer, cutting through her words like they hadn't been there at all. Maya went quiet, because there was something in the way he said it, something that didn't allow for argument. They assumed, he went on, that there would be no consequence. A brief pause, his jaw tightening just slightly. They assumed no one would notice. Maya's fingers curled slightly into Eli's blanket, her heart picking up again. Because suddenly, this didn't feel like her story anymore. It felt like something bigger, something she didn't fully understand. And they were right, she said quietly. No one did notice. Dante's eyes held hers, unblinking. I did. The words landed softly, but they changed everything. Maya's breath slowed, just a fraction. Because that was true. He had noticed. He had stopped. He had stepped out into the cold. And now he was sitting across from her, talking about consequences like they were something he could decide. You don't have to do this, she said again. But her voice was different this time, less certain, less defensive, more unsure. Dante studied her for a moment, then shook his head once. I'm not doing this for you, he said. Maya blinked, the words hitting in a way she didn't expect. Not unkind, not dismissive, just honest. I'm doing this because there are lines, he continued, his voice quieter now, lower, and somehow more dangerous. Lines you don't cross. The car slowed slightly as it approached a red light, the glow from outside casting shadows across his face, sharp, defined. You don't leave a woman and a baby outside to freeze, he said, each word deliberate, measured, final. You don't turn survival into punishment. Maya felt her chest tighten again. But this time, it wasn't just fear. It was something else, something she didn't recognize right away, something that felt almost like relief. Because for the first time, someone wasn't telling her to endure it, to accept it, to survive it quietly. Someone was saying, it shouldn't have happened, and that mattered. Dante reached into his coat again, pulling out his phone, his movements smooth, unhurried, but there was nothing casual about it. Maya watched him, her heart starting to race again. What are you doing? She asked. Dante glanced at her briefly, then back to the screen. Making sure, he said calmly. They understand the mistake they made. The light turned green. The car moved forward, and Maya sat there, holding her son, watching a man she barely knew decide something that felt far bigger than either of them, and for the first time since the night began. She wasn't just afraid of what might happen next. She was afraid of what he might do, and even more than that. She was afraid of how much a part of her wanted him to do it. The car slowed again, but this time it didn't feel uncertain. It felt intentional. Maya watched through the window as the city shifted around them, the crowded streets giving way to something quieter, cleaner. The buildings grew taller, more polished, the sidewalks emptier, the kind of place where everything looked untouched by struggle. The car turned into a private drive. The gates opened before they even reached them. Maya noticed that. Of course she did. The way no one had to ask who they were, the way access was already granted, the way this man didn't wait for permission. Her grip on Eli tightened slightly. Not out of fear this time, out of awareness, because whatever world she had just stepped into, it was not her world. The car came to a smooth stop in front of a building that rose like glass and steel against the night sky. Clean lines, sharp edges, lights glowing warmly behind tall windows. It didn't look like a place people struggled. It looked like a place people escaped to. The driver stepped out first, then Dante. He moved around the car, opening Maya's door without hesitation, not like a gesture, not like something polite, but like something expected. Maya hesitated for half a second, just long enough for her instincts to catch up again. Then Eli shifted slightly in her arms. And that was enough. She stepped out. The cold hit her again. But it didn't feel the same anymore, because now she knew there was warmth waiting just a few steps away. Dante didn't touch her, didn't guide her. He simply turned and walked toward the entrance, and she followed. The doors opened before they reached them. Inside, everything changed. Warmth wrapped around her instantly. Not just temperature, but space. Soft lighting. Quiet. The faint scent of something clean and expensive she couldn't name. Maya's body reacted before her mind could. Her shoulders dropped, just slightly. Her breathing deepened, just a little. Eli stirred again in her arms. And this time, there was no sharp edge of cold in his movement. Dante spoke quietly to someone at the front desk. Maya didn't catch the words. She didn't need to, because the reaction told her everything. Immediate, respectful, no questions. A key card appeared, a nod, and then Dante turned back to her. "This way," he said. Again, not a command, not forceful, but certain. Maya followed him into the elevator. The doors closed behind them with a soft, controlled sound. The space was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made her aware of everything. Her breathing, Eli's breathing. The faint hum of movement as they rose. She shifted slightly, adjusting the blanket again, her fingers brushing over Eli's cheek. Warmer. Definitely warmer. Her chest loosened just a fraction more. Dante stood beside her, not looking at her directly, but present. Always present. The elevator opened. A hallway stretched out before them. Soft carpet, muted lighting, no noise and no people, just stillness. Dante led her to a door, opened it, stepped aside, and let her enter first. Maya paused in the doorway, just for a second, because stepping inside felt like crossing something invisible, a line she couldn't quite name. Then she walked in. The room was warm, bright, too clean, too perfect. A bed with thick blankets, a couch, a small table already set with food, real food, not scraps, not something thrown together. Plates, steam rising. The smell hit her immediately, rich, warm, comforting in a way that made her chest ache. Maya didn't move at first, and she just stood there, taking it in, because places like this, moments like this, didn't belong to her life. Dante closed the door behind them, the sound soft. Final. "You should sit," he said. Maya nodded slightly, almost automatically. She moved toward the couch, lowered herself carefully, still holding Eli close, not letting go, not yet. Dante crossed the room, picked up one of the blankets from the bed, came back, and without asking, draped it gently over her shoulders. The movement was careful, precise, not lingering, not intrusive, just done. Maya froze for half a second, then exhaled, a slow, shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Thank you," she whispered. Dante didn't respond to that. He turned instead, poured a glass of water, set it in front of her, then stepped back, giving her space, always that balance, close enough to act, far enough not to overwhelm. Maya looked down at the food, then at Eli, then back at the food. Her stomach tightened, because she was hungry, more than hungry. But it had been so long since she'd eaten without calculating, without worrying. Her body didn't know how to just take. "You should eat," Dante said quietly, not pushing, just stating. Maya nodded again, slowly. She shifted Eli slightly, settling him more comfortably in her arms, then reached for the plate. Her hands trembled just a little. The first bite. It hit harder than she expected, warm, real, not rushed, not scarce. Her eyes stung suddenly, and she blinked quickly, refusing to let that happen. Not now, not here. She took another bite, then another, slower this time, more controlled. Eli stirred again, a soft sound, and Maya looked down at him, really looked. His face wasn't tight anymore. His breathing was steady, his small body relaxed against hers. And something inside her, something that had been wound tight for hours, finally eased, just enough. She leaned back slightly into the couch, the blanket around her, the warmth surrounding her, the food in her hands, and for the first time, not survival, not fear, not panic, something else, fragile, uncertain, but real. Maybe they were going to make it through tonight. Maya glanced up. Dante stood near the window, looking out at the city, silent, still. Like he belonged to a world she didn't understand, but had stepped into anyway. And for the first time since everything had fallen apart, Maya allowed herself to believe something she hadn't dared to before. Not fully, not completely, but enough. They weren't alone anymore. Morning came quietly, not with noise, not with urgency, but with light. Soft, pale light slipping through the tall windows, stretching across the floor, touching the edges of a room that had held safety through the night. Maya woke slowly. Not the way she usually did. Sharp, alert, already bracing for something to go wrong. This was different. Her body didn't jolt awake. It surfaced, gradually, carefully, like it was testing whether it was safe to fully return. For a moment, she didn't move. She just lay there. Eli tucked against her side, his small body warm, his breathing steady and even in a way she hadn't felt in days. Her hand rested lightly over his back. Instinct. Always instinct. But there was no panic behind it now, no urgency, just presence. Maya blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to the light. The room came into focus piece by piece. The clean lines, the untouched stillness, the quiet that didn't feel empty. And then it came back, the night, the cold, the door closing behind her, the sound of the lock, the street, the car, him, Dante. Her breath caught for half a second, her body tensing, waiting for the fear to follow. But it didn't hit the same way, because she wasn't there anymore. She wasn't outside, she wasn't alone. She wasn't standing in the dark trying to figure out how to survive the next hour. She was here, warm, safe. Eli stirred slightly beside her, making a soft sound before settling again. Maya's hand moved gently over his back, reassuring, grounding, and something inside her chest shifted, not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. Enough to let something new in, hope, small, fragile, but real. She sat up slowly, careful not to wake him, her body still a little heavy, still catching up. The blanket slipped from her shoulders as she moved, and the air against her skin felt normal. Not biting, not punishing, just air. Maya swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet touching the floor, solid, steady, real. For a moment she just sat there, letting it sink in, because everything about this felt temporary, like something that could disappear if she moved too fast, if she believed in it too much. Her eyes lifted. The room was quiet. Dante wasn't there, but his presence was. In the way everything had been arranged, in the untouched food still resting on the table, in the glass of water placed exactly where she had left it, in the fact that she had slept, really slept, for the first time in longer than she could remember. Maya stood slowly, moving carefully. She walked to the window, looked out. The city stretched below her, alive, moving, unaware, and for the first time, she wasn't on the outside of it, looking in. She pressed her hand lightly against the glass, her reflection faint, different, not fixed, not healed, but changed. Because something had happened last night, something that didn't fit into the pattern of everything she had known. People didn't stop. Not for strangers, not for women like her, not without wanting something in return. But he had. He had stopped. He had stepped out of that car. He had looked at her, really looked, and decided something. Maya exhaled slowly, her breath fogging the glass for a second before fading. The door behind her opened quietly. She turned. Dante stepped inside, dressed the same, composed, untouched by the night in a way that made it seem like he belonged to something beyond it. But his eyes went to Eli first and then to her. Always that order, always that awareness. You slept, he said. Maya nodded. I did. A small pause. Thank you. Dante inclined his head slightly, acknowledging, not dismissing, not making it bigger than it was, just accepting it. There's food, he said. I saw, she replied softly. Another pause, not uncomfortable. Just there. Maya hesitated. Then, what happens now? She asked. The question felt heavier than it should have, because it wasn't just about today. It was about everything, about what came next, about whether this safety, this moment, was something that would last. Dante studied her for a moment, long enough to make her wonder if she should have asked. Then, you decide, he said. Maya blinked. What? You decide what happens now, he repeated, calm, certain. I'll make sure you and your son are safe. That doesn't change. Her chest tightened slightly at that, at the certainty in his voice, at the way he said it like it wasn't something that could be questioned. But the rest, he continued, is yours. Maya looked at him, really looked, trying to understand, because people didn't say things like that. Not to her, not without conditions, not without expectations. You're not asking for anything? She said quietly. Dante's expression didn't change. No. Just that. No explanation, no hidden meaning, just no. Maya felt something shift again, deeper this time. Because that was something she didn't know how to navigate. Freedom, choice. She looked down at Eli, her son, her reason, her anchor, and for the first time, she didn't feel like she was choosing between survival and everything else. She felt like there might be more, something beyond just getting through the next day. Maya lifted her head again, her shoulders straighter, her voice steadier. Then I choose to stay standing, she said. Simple, but it meant everything. Dante held her gaze, and for the first time, something almost like approval flickered there, subtle but real. Good, he said. The word landed differently than anything else, because it wasn't about control, it wasn't about ownership, it was about acknowledgement. Maya exhaled slowly, and in that moment, she understood something she hadn't before. Last night wasn't just the night she lost everything. It wasn't just the night she stood in the cold with nowhere to go. It was something else, something bigger. It was the night someone stopped, the night someone saw her, not as a problem, not as a burden, but as someone worth stepping out into the cold for. And because of that one moment, everything after it could be different. Not easy, not perfect, but possible. Maya looked out the window again, the city no longer something she was shut out of, but something she could step back into, on her own terms. And behind her, a man who had changed nothing with words, but everything with a single decision: to stop, to see, to act. And for the first time in a long time, Maya allowed herself to believe that this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning.